This is my knit along on how to make a pair of unicorn pants that are knit completely in the round. You will start with your white yarn and 2 pair of size 6 circular needles. To cast on, you'll only use 1 set to start with, and we're going to cast on the specified number of stitches. When you cast on, you want to make sure you use a stretchy cast on. This is at the waistband, so you want some stretch. You can use whatever cast on method you like, but I prefer to use Judy's slipknot cast on. So I will briefly walk you through this. You're going to take and wrap the yarn around your thumb. Slip that onto your finger and twist it. Then pick up the yarn and pull that tight with a little slip knot underneath. So let me show you again. Wrap it around your thumb, get it on your finger, twist it, go in there as if to purl, pick it up, and pull it through, and then pull it tight. I will put the YouTube link here for Judy's slipknot cast on. So you're going to continue casting on until you have the specified number of stitches. I will speed this video up so we can get to the next step. Go ahead and pause it if you need to until you get your stitches all cast on. At this point you have all your stitches cast on, but they're on one needle. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get that second set of circular needles and transfer the stitches onto, or divide the stitches between the 2 needles. You divide the stitches by simply slipping the specified number of stitches onto that second set of circular needles. You just keep slipping until you have the specified number of stitches on each set of needles. Once you've got the stitches rearranged or divided onto your 2 needles, now you're going to start knitting. So this is what it looks like. Now you need to take those stitches and get them to the other end of your needles. So you're going to just slide them along the cables. This is so your working yarn is in the left hand position. I like to take my stitches and actually slide all of them onto the needles so that I can straighten them out and make sure they're not twisted. So now I have the working yarn at the back coming off that back needle. You're going to want to put a marker on for the beginning of the round, so you just put it on your first cast on stitch and put a second marker somewhere in the middle of the front stitches so you'll know the front from the back. So we're going to start knitting by grabbing the end of the needle in front, following the cable to make sure I have the right end. I like to keep the needles close together when I go to knit my first couple of stitches so that I don't get too big a gap between the front and back stitches. As you knit the first couple of stitches, I suggest tugging that yarn really tight to kind of pull that gap together. Once you've got the first couple of stitches worked, you can then take and grab that back needle and just slide those back stitches onto the cable. You're going to continue knitting and purling in pattern till you reach the end of the stitches on the front needles. So I will speed this video up so we can get to that point. Alright, we're getting to the last stitch, so you're going to knit that one, and then the next one you're going to purl, and you'll be at the end of the front stitches. Okay, now that we're at the end, we want to knit across the back stitches. So what we're going to do is grab that needle and slide those stitches onto the cable. Now your front stitches are in the back of your work, just hanging on the cable. And you're going to take your needle for your back stitches and slide the stitches onto it. Then once you get all the stitches slid onto the needle, you're going to make sure that you get that cable for the front stitches close so you don't have a gap in your yarn. And now you're going to find the end of that needle, run along the cable, make sure you have the right needle for your back stitches. Then you're going to get your cable close and you're just going to start knitting in patterns. So you're going to do the knit one. Got my cast on too tight. Then you're going to knit, purl one. Now you're just going to knit and then purl and just repeat that to the end of the round. I will speed up the video at this point so we can see what happens next. Alright, now we're reaching the last stitch, so we're going to go ahead and purl that. We see we're at the end of the stitches on the back needle. At this point we've actually finished one round, and now we want to start our next round. So we're going to grab that needle, slide the stitches down. We're going to turn our work around and get those front stitches back in front of us. You can see there's our marker. Okay, now we're going to slide the stitches onto the needles for the front. So we're just going to pull on that cable, slide them on there. Then we want to make sure that cable from the back stitches is close so we have a tight connection. Now you're going to find your corresponding end of your circular needle by following that cord all the way to the needle. Now you're going to continue in pattern and knit one, purl one. As soon as you knit one, purl one, you've officially started your second round of knitting in the round with 2 pairs of circular needles. You're going to continue knitting and purling all the way to the end of the front stitches. So let's go through this one more time. We'll speed it up until we get to the end of the front stitches. Now we've reached our last stitch on the front. We're going to purl it. And you see we're at the end of the front, so we want to get back on that back stitches. Grab the needle, slide those front stitches onto the cable. Now's the time to turn your work around and bring those back stitches to the front. Here's your markers. You're going to make sure those front stitches are in back of you. Take your back stitches and slide them onto the needle. So now you're ready to start knitting across the back stitches. So you're going to grab that needle or that cable, slide down it, find the end of the needle, and start knitting. You're going to follow your pattern. It's a knit one, purl one. Again, make sure your cable in back is close to your front needle so you don't have that gap, and just start knitting and purling. You're going to continue in pattern until you reach the end of the back stitches, which is also the end of your second round. I will speed this up again so we can see what it looks like at the end. Now we've reached that last stitch, so we're going to purl it. We're done with the second round, so you're going to grab your needle, pull those stitches onto the cable, and turn your work around. So now you've done 2 rounds, and the concept is you go across the front and around the back, and then you come back around the front, and you just keep going around and around in pattern. So at this point, follow the pattern and just keep going around and around until you have the specified length of ribbing. At this point, the pattern becomes pretty straightforward, so you just follow the pattern until you're ready to knit the legs. I have made a second knit along video, part 2, that will show you how to knit the legs.